Alright devs, we're gonna explore something that not many people talk about. And that thing is, how do you make your environment look good without actually making anything fancy? Now, we are in the Dark Ruins Megascan sample, which is made by Quixel. It's called Dark Ruins because pretty much your graphics card will explore its darkest time here. So it's pretty heavy, I'm not gonna lie, but it's really well made. I'm gonna go through different scenes here and I will show you different art principles that you can apply so that you can make your scenes better. I have explored this map quite a bit and it's really simple in terms of meshes. For example, these rocks here is the same mesh over and over. Only one mesh is doing all the work. Now, in terms of colors and everything, we're gonna talk about it, but we're gonna go to the first principle here, and that is shapes. Shapes are everything in the artist's eyes. Shapes are pretty much what artists see instead of logical things. So for example, your logical brain will think, oh, this is a rock, this is a concrete structure, these are castle ruins, and that's how it thinks about it. You need to stop thinking like that and think about shapes. The shapes are 2D. However, we work in a 3D medium. What our eye sees is actually a 3D, like everything is like 2D. So the main shape that you will see here, it's a triangle, just like this. It's a triangle. That's the main shape. Triangles are typically shapes that are related psychologically to, you know, like divine things, structure, very, like something like very holy, you know? Like you see like the pyramids, and a lot of game elements use this kind of triangle shapes to show some divine kind of feeling, right? Now, obviously, that's like your main composition, right? So what happens here is when you start thinking about your environment, you need to think about what's my main character here. So the main character is going to be this one. And how are we going to make it pop? Well, we're going to have two different elements. Some forms that are like rocks, like you can see the forms here, right? Like they are pretty much like this. Right? They form a lot of shadows, a lot of lit areas, just because the way the forms are in the rock, they create this kind of shapes here. Now, so you have like this kind of shapes that are going here. We have our main shape that is the triangle, but we also have like different shapes that are these rocks. So the way you add contrast to your main character is by having a different form, like a different surface treatment. When you see this concrete piece, it's not a lot of light and shadow, it's just flat. And this flatness compared to the contrast that is on these rocks, it will create contrast. And contrast is what pretty much like your eyes are always scanning a picture. And as soon as it finds some contrast, it says, okay, stop here. This is what happens here. There's another contrast here because there is a big shadow here, and we're talking about like black and white already. So I'm gonna go little by little, but just to keep in mind, to take away from this, shapes are super important. What you see here, it's not only shapes, but also size comparison, scale. Scale is very important. Like, for example, if this was smaller, like this, you may think that this is a super huge mountain. But because this is like a, you know, the scale is bigger in relative to what you see here, and the size of the windows that you can relate, you will think that, okay, this actually makes more sense, right? So scale is pretty important, and it actually sells a lot the main composition. Is actually creating a line like this. We're going to talk about lines later, but just think about all these principles that are being applied here and how we will keep talking about those in the next areas. Next area here, again, a pretty cool angle. We have a scale, which is the scaffolding that is happening here. We have the main area, which is a very flat surface. And we have rocks that are giving us like the main contrast of the scene. Like it's gonna give us like, okay, like this is very organic and this is not organic. And this organic against inorganic shapes is just gonna give you really, really nice contrast. The way we add scale here is by using this scaffolding and also the door and some all other smaller elements here. Now notice that in this shape, we're not covering the entire thing. We're not covering everything here. We're leaving some space here. We're leaving some negative space. This negative space is like really, really useful to make your composition pop out. So if you actually cover everything, your composition will not look the same. You have some light areas and you have some dark areas. Just keep that in mind. Now let's go to the third one. All right. So I actually need to move my camera because we're not really in. Let's put real time. I'm sorry, video card. If we put real time, yeah. So what will happen here is that this area is not like a main shot or anything, but just to show you guys how all these principles apply here. This may be a little bit too dark, but it's gonna work for us. You have one shape here. You have another shape here, which is the lead area, and you have another shape here. You also have like the lead areas here. Notice how the shapes are not only created by different types of forms, such as rocks or concrete in comparison, but also as lead and unlit areas. All this area, because it's so dark, we can combine it as one shape. And those are the main shapes that this one has. Obviously, because this pillar here is giving us like this light value. If I rotate this to some degree where I don't see the light, then I won't have the same, right? I won't have the same result. Like if I hide this diagonal pillar is giving us this light contrast. The light's coming from here. So as soon as we put a pillar like this, you will have a very lit area here. If we remove this, all our scene will look pretty dark in comparison, right? You see, this one is also creating the shape. So you get the idea between lights and shadows. This one, it's pretty damn cool. So this one not only have the shapes. I'm sure you can follow, or you can think about the main subject here. The main subject obviously being this door right here. Why is that? Well, we're talking about a lot of directional lines that are happening, and we're going to talk about directional lines later, but you have these lines here, you have these lines here. This is called a gate, like a door. Like I mean, I know literally it's a gate, but it's in composition it's called framing. We want to frame everything. Like we just don't want to like go ahead and just have the door like this. Like the frame is not really that strong. You even have frames here at the, like like you have frames like this. But by having a really strong frame, you focus your eye to focus on that area. So what's happening here, it's you have pretty dark areas. You have a light coming from here, so it's creating this nice contrast. This is the highest contrast in this picture. And what it will give you is, hey, I'm gonna look here. And then you're gonna follow these lines, or you're gonna follow this one. Now, we don't really know which one is the main character. It probably can be this one. It probably can be this one. There isn't this is not like a science. It's more like this is more art. So you need to go a lot with your gut feeling. Now, another thing that is happening here, like notice like the shadow areas are all this. All this area is shadow. And here, this area is lit area. And then obviously this one has the highest contrast and this one has very, very little light. But another thing that is helping you here in terms of adding, think of contrast like adding some, like using the balance. Like you're using a balance here. Like you can put something here, but you can also put something really heavy here. And the more elements you add, the better it's gonna be. Here you have contrast on shapes. You have contrast on, this is a solid piece. Look at this. This is not the same treatment of the rock. The other thing, we're framing here. And the last thing is we're having color contrast. We're having lights that are contrast between each other. For example, I have my camera here. The frame is between blue and orange. This is on purpose because orange and blue are complete opposites when it comes to colors. Same as green. And this is not necessarily the complete opposite. The opposite of green should be like red. So let's see if we can actually change all of this to red. We're gonna have the Christmas feeling. I don't know if that's gonna be like a, actually that's gonna be a lot of work. So let's, okay, so let's just go here. Never mind. I'm gonna show you a much easier way. So you can just go to point light, and what you will see here is like the color picker actually helps you to understand what are the what is the contrast. So the way I like to look at this is you have this color here, and the more you get away from it, the more contrast there is between them. So between blue and orange, there is a huge contrast gap. But between blue and green, there isn't much. So sometimes you don't want complete contrast. Sometimes you want complementary colors. In this case, it's green and orange. They're kind of like a little bit of contrast, but not like a lot. Just enough so that you see like these colors just go very well together. Other colors that go well together sometimes is like orange and purple. Sometimes it's, you know, red and green. We already talked about it. Blue and orange. Combinations of colors, there are plenty. And these are like the hacks that you can use to always choose, okay, I'm gonna go for blue and orange. I'm gonna go for green and reds. And they're always gonna work. They always gonna work. You can see plenty of games using this lining. They always use it, right? So let's go back to this one. This one is really interesting. And the reason for that is this is a composition that is using a lot of lines. Usually when working on an environment, I like to think about directional lines first. Lines, technically, they don't really exist in the scene. A 2D line is basically the intersection between shadow and light, or some kind of depth between one object and another. So the things that you have here is these lines that are pointing upwards. They are pointing upwards here. And you have like these lines pointing here. They all, like, in a beautiful way, they all help you to, hey, look at this. This is the main character. Go here, look at the lines, and eventually you will see here. Why do you see here? There is also contrast between the light and the shadow, and there is also contrast between the green lights that we have here and the orange lights that are being used here. So everything adds up together. It's not like one technique, I'm just gonna use directional lights, directional lines, and that's it. Or I'm gonna use contrast between forms, like I'm gonna put rocks and I'm gonna put, I'm gonna put rocks and I'm gonna put like man-made elements, and that's it. It's everything put together. Another thing that you have here, and this is this is extremely important. This is a scale. We talk about scale on this one. How this one can help you to sell the scale of this piece. In this one, scale, it's actually very interesting, because when you see these like these brick walls, this broken castle wall, there's also a small element here. This is the scaffolding. So if you actually go here and take a look what's going on, you actually have a lot of small elements here. And notice that they don't really, some of them are like floating, some of them are like not, like it doesn't really matter. What's important here is the noise and the sense of scale. The sense of scale that they have. Like, these are giving you immense amount of detail. However, if you see here, like the textures are really, it's just a tiling texture here. It's nothing really that great, But everything put together is, when you put this scaffolding here and everything, when you see the bigger picture, you see like something here that I really like. And another thing that it helps is not only scale, but it's also silhouette. Silhouette, it's everything that you see here. Everything that you see here, it's silhouette. Silhouette is the most important thing, because a silhouette can change everything. And what this is giving you is, instead of having only the silhouette, you're having small lines here that are breaking it, giving you a very, very different feeling. Silhouette can change the total feeling of everything. All right. So already 17 minutes into the game, into the video. Hopefully, like, you can understand by yourself how these principles are applied. Shapes, contrast between shadow and lit areas, some of them with different light colors, contrast between light colors, framing. Look at the frame here. The frame that is happening here, it also happens to be the brightest point on your scene. So it's like you're looking through the window into the highest amount of contrast here, which is the lit area and the shadows that are created here. Scale, using the scaffolding, and just a lot of shapes here, like this. You can notice, like, as soon as I remove this is not the same. Like, look how important framing is. Like, as soon as you remove a simple thing like just the iron bar, it suddenly doesn't feel the same. But as soon as you put it there, your composition is totally different. You have a lot of dark areas, you have framing, and you have a lot of these shapes that are just changing completely the composition that you have. All right. So this one as well, contrast between orange and greens, contrast between light and shadow, shapes here, silhouette, once again, silhouette happening here to not only have like a empty hole, you also have some things going on here. And this one obviously also have contrast between lights, light color, shapes here. You can see the lit areas and the shadow areas. You have the directional lines that are pointing here. You have the high contrast here, and you have pretty much your main character happening here between the contrast of this orange light and the green one and everyone pointing at him, even these rocks are pointing into that direction. So that's pretty much for this video. I don't know if it's gonna be interesting for you. For me, I feel like these concepts are the most important thing. Easier said than done. When you try to create your environment, you will see that it's hard to apply these principles when you don't know them. And as soon as you get better and better, you will instantly decorate your environment thinking about these principles. Oh, I'm gonna put a shadow here. Oh, I'm gonna change this form. Oh, I'm gonna put some contrast of color. I'm gonna change the silhouette. I'm gonna put some directional lines here, directional lines to guide the eye. And all these things, as you get better making environments, you're gonna start thinking about them automatically, right? So why I made this type of video? A lot of people think that they can make environments just because you have a lot of assets. Quixel is using the same asset over and over and over again in this map. I'm going to show you right here. Look at this asset. It's the massive Nordic coastal cliff, which you are pretty well familiar with, and it's repeated over and over and over and over 100 times. Look at how many of this there is. Like only like 2 rocks to make the whole thing. And a lot of people think that, oh, I can just drag and drop and make an environment. And then the result is that it's not really good enough. All right. So that's why I want to share with you these principles. Keep them in mind, practice them. And whenever you create an environment, you just shut down your brain, your logical brain, and start turning on your illogical brain, the brain that sees shapes, the brain that sees lights, silhouettes, color contrast, lines. If you do that, your environments will improve quite a lot. All right. So that's it for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. And obviously, if you want to learn more from us, make sure to check the links in the description, and I will see you in the next one.